Today, I'm going to be flying from Melbourne to Adelaide with Virgin Australia, although I wasn't actually meant to be in Melbourne today, but first, let me recap from last week's video. So I flew Singapore to Sydney with Scoot on their 787, enjoyed $50 worth of a whopping 200 megabytes of data, a bumpy descent before touching down in Sydney where I stayed the night. One more flight to go, so flying back to Adelaide tomorrow from Sydney, although we'll see what happens because I've already received a message saying that there's a meteorologist that said there's very strong winds tomorrow, so the flight, there's a chance there could be delays. So the fact I'm in Melbourne and not flying to Adelaide from Sydney, something has certainly gone wrong. Let me try and explain with the background ambience of a busy brewery and beer hall at Melbourne Airport. Alright, today's been a bit of a schmozzle. Meant to actually be in Sydney, flying to Adelaide today. However, last night I received a text saying that due to winds, there could be delays. However, I actually received a message at about 1 a.m. saying that my flight had been cancelled, and they've assigned me to some new flights, and it wasn't direct to Adelaide, and it's actually brought me here to Melbourne. But what's happened is the first flight I was supposed to go on, there was some technical issues, so we had to swap planes, go to a different gate, and by the time that left and we got into Melbourne here, already missed my next flight, and the following flight to Adelaide was already booked out, so the next best option was to put me on a 1:10 flight over to Adelaide. So just a bit tired, got in from Singapore yesterday, so yeah, it is what it is. If only you could hear how I really felt about today. Something along the lines of a few words, Virgin Australia this, Virgin Australia that, with a stream of beeps in between before saying Virgin Australia again, sounding more like I'm sending some Morse code. I'll explain the situation a little better once we're up in the air, as to why I was so teed off, and mainly because us Adelaide passengers were promised something completely different to what some of us got. But on a more positive note, after being bumped onto a 2-leg trip and missing the connection to Adelaide, I'm happy to be finally on board and heading back to Adelaide after a week overseas. Alright, finally on board now, heading back home, finally. And looks like they've got me seated in an exit row today, so that's nice. Bit of extra leg room. As I'm in the exit row today, there is the additional leg room, however bags or general floor storage needs to go in the overhead compartments. The exit row seats are in Economy X, so they've given me a little upgrade today when rebooking me onto a new flight, as these seats are usually $30 extra from Melbourne to Adelaide. Aside from the extra leg room, these seats provide priority boarding and preferred overhead lockers. In-flight Wi-Fi is available on this flight, however it's for using the Virgin Australia app to view videos, TV shows or listen to podcasts, or you can also view the map to view the flight's progress. But for now, as it's time for pushback, let's enjoy the takeoff from this wet day here at Melbourne Tullamarine Airport. Melbourne to Adelaide is around the 1 hour mark or 654 kilometres. Prior to takeoff today, the captain mentioned that we'll be expecting some bumps climbing up through the clouds today, but overall smooth flying conditions once at cruising altitude. Arriving into Adelaide, we'll have a 45km/h southwesterly wind, so that'll be interesting come landing time. Weather across the country from South Australia to Victoria and New South Wales had horrible weather on this day. So when I was in Sydney the night before my flight and received the first message about possible delays, it was expected when my first flight over to Adelaide was cancelled. Although I would have liked to have a direct flight home, I don't mind having to fly to Melbourne, as originally I was only going to be arriving back in Adelaide 1 to 2 hours after my original scheduled time, which was 8 AM. But because my first leg to Melbourne was heavily delayed due to a technical issue with the first aircraft, and then finally an aircraft change, by the time we made it into Melbourne, it was boarding time for those of us heading over to Adelaide on the second leg that had our direct flight cancelled. All of us asked the cabin crew what would happen and if we were going to make it, and they assured all of us that they know we are coming and they are not going to leave without us. Long story short, we got off the plane in Melbourne, raced over to the gate to be told it's closed. So we were told to go back to the gate where we arrived from to find another flight. Once we got back there, Virgin Australia staff served 3 people before I was third in line when the staff member apologised and told us that we needed to go to another gate that was specially set up for us. By the time we raced over there, I was now 5th or 6th in line as the people from the back of the original line decided to get to the front, and it was just a free-for-all. I missed the next departing flight out and I was put on the one after. I was given a $16 meal voucher and the Economy X upgrade. My only annoyance was being handballed off from gate to gate and then knowing I would have got on the next flight if the queues stayed the same order. But I understand it's a stressful time managing staff and the aviation industry in general right now, and I believe this could have happened with any airline. I'm more so just sharing a story and an experience that I had. But back to this flight, now we're near the Coorong. This is a sign when I know I'm almost home.
Adelaide, rest on device holder, ensure they're stowed, and all devices are upright. You can still keep using your large devices like laptops until the seatbelt sign has been switched on.
It wasn't the best way to end the trip with all the delays, a flight cancellation and extended leg to get home, but either way, I'm happy to be almost home in Adelaide after 9 flights, 6 cities in 7 days. And if you haven't seen my other videos over the last 7 to 8 weeks, from my trip over to Singapore, Kuala Lumpur and Penang, please feel free to check them out in my upload section. Thanks for watching another one of my trip reports. Although this one was a little different to my usual videos, as I didn't plan on filming this flight, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've stuck around this long and enjoy these kind of videos, please consider subscribing to my channel, as it helps me out a lot to grow my YouTube channel. Alright, well, I'm back in Adelaide. It's cold. I've been in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur for the last week, so certainly a temperature change, but anyways, it is what it is. Anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. Certainly a bit of a different one. Wasn't expecting to go to Melbourne today, but hey, it is what it is, that's part of it. Anyways, catch you in the next one.